All right, all right.
Hey, hey,
Hey,
hey.
hey, honey.
Hey, baby.
Good
How's
morning.
everyone doing today?
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. So you see, James and I were in different places. So I'm sorry, I had to speak to my boo first before I spoke to all of you guys because I haven't seen him in a minute. Actually, it's just been since yesterday.
I was going to say, it hasn't been that long.
So, good morning, everybody. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Thank you for joining Pillow Talk Lounge with the Greenes today. We are reared up and ready to go on our topic that we've been talking about all month. This month has been National Appreciation Month. We've been talking about, learning to appreciate your mate, your spouse, just not just recognizing the little things that they do. And so today we're going to talk about stop complaining and start complimenting. So first though, we need you to hit the share button. Go to your screen and hit the share button, y'all, because I'm telling y'all, somebody needs to hear this today. Because when James and I meet with couples, we have such specific questions that we ask them starting out. And what generally happens, right? We have specific questions that we ask the couples when we start out. And those questions are just to get a feel for what's going on with them, how they're thinking, how they're feeling, and the direction we're going to go with them, right? And so what do couples usually do? Come on, y'all know what do couples usually do when they don't have a great relationship? What they do, babe?
Well, usually, first, let me just say good morning to everyone. And right, this is Couple Appreciation Month. And like we said, we're talking about the things you appreciate. And a lot of times you stop appreciating the little things that they do and you start complaining about those little things.
That's the
So a
word.
lot
That's
of
what I was looking
times,
for.
right. So a lot of times couples will complain that he or she doesn't listen or they don't understand me anymore or, they don't talk to me anymore. It's the little things. A lot of times
Uh-oh.
it's that communication piece where they either say that they don't listen or they don't talk. That seems to be the biggest issue. It's not that, they don't do the things that they used to do. It always seems to be that they don't listen or they don't talk or they don't understand. So my question is, so what are you doing to help them to understand? What are you doing to make them, what are you doing as part of it? Instead of complaining all the time that they're not listening or they're not talking to me, what are you doing to change that narrative? What are you doing to make that adjustment to when people evolve and when people change? What are you doing to change that from yourself?
Absolutely. And so that's what we are talking about today is stop complaining and start complimenting. Because you guys, oftentimes we are so busy complaining that we don't stop and think about we're overlooking so many things. We're overlooking so many things. So I always like to have y'all ask y'all a question. Are you a complainer or are you a complimenter? Be honest, y'all. Be honest. Post in the chat. Are you a complainer or are you a complimenter? So for
Right.
me, I think
And
that
I was going to say, see, a lot of times I feel that they focus on the wrong thing. Where's your focus? You're always focusing on the negative. That's the complaining part. Maybe you need to change your focus onto positive. What are they doing? Because let's just say everybody isn't doing everything wrong all the time. So what is your focus? Are you focusing on those little things that they're doing the little bit of the times? Maybe those little bit of bad things or the little things that you don't appreciate a little bit of part of the time, so to speak? Or are you focusing on the things, the positive things that they're doing, the good things that they're doing? Because let's be honest, everyone isn't doing bad all the time. Maybe that's just the part you're focusing on, that little part. How about start focusing on the positive? and complimenting that person on that part instead of focusing on the negative and always complaining about that part. Just like Cynthia said, are you a complainer or are you a complimenter? So where's your focus? If you're a complainer or you complain all the time, that's because you're focusing on those little things, those negative things, instead of focusing on the good things that the person's doing, the positive things that they're doing. And maybe if you start complimenting on those positive things, that will change the narrative. That will change your relationship. Because now they appreciate you always giving them accolades, always giving positive feedback of the good things they're doing and not focusing on the small things they're doing. Because let me tell you something, during the week, you could be doing good, say 3 or 4 out of 5 days. And then that 5th day or one day of the week, you may do something wrong or you may do something that your spouse or your mate doesn't like. And that's what you focus on. And all that does is ruin the next few days because you're still focusing on that negative. You're still focusing on that one day that they may have did something wrong instead of focusing on those other 3 or 4 days that they did something right or they did something positive or they did something you appreciate. You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying, y'all. My husband be going in when he get in there. But that's so true. So a lot of times when we're working with a couple, right, and we asked them how was their week. And so sometimes the husband say good, the wife will say bad. And when we dig deeper, this a bad week because of one thing, that one thing that happened to them, one thing. And so when you go deeper and you talk about that one thing, was that really something to allow your whole week or the rest of your week to be destroyed because they did one thing that worked your nerve, they did one thing that upset you, one thing that disappointed you? So what do? We teach them how to walk through looking at their situation a little differently. Because y'all know how people always talk about, do you see the glass as half full or half empty? Some people always seem to see the glass as half empty. Me, I always see it,
You're right. When you see it as half empty, usually that's what they're focusing on. They're focusing on the complaining part, the negative piece of that glass, instead of seeing the half full, instead of seeing the good things that that person is doing during the week.
That's so true. And so I always look at the glass, not even as half full. I look at the glass as almost full, like, oh my gosh, it's filling up. It's going to overflow. And so when we start to shift our mindset, and this is another thing that we tell couples, you got to shift your mindset. You got to shift how you look at things, how you think about things, how you perceive things. Because a lot of times we've been looking at things with blinders on. We've seen things the same way for the last 10, 15, 20 years of our life. We've seen things the way our parents saw them. We see things the way we were raised. We see things the way grandmama taught us, but sometimes we have to forget about how mom and them did it and think about what's best for me in my household, what's best for me and my spouse, what's best for me in my house, what's going to be the best thing for us, and do it that way. And when you learn new tools, you learn new skills, guess what? That's when you throw out them old ones and you got something better to use. That's what you should be using.
Right. And baby, when we talk about marriage and the stages of marriage, that first stage, the honeymoon stage, you're not even focusing on none of those imperfections. You're not even focusing on none of those things that bother you, none of those things that get under your skin. Even if your spouse or your mate doesn't talk to you or you feel they don't listen, when it's early in your relationship, you're not even focused on that. You're just focused on being with that person, having a good time. But the longer you're with that person, the more, like Cynthia said, your mindset changes. And then when your mindset starts changing, you start changing. Now it's not the honeymoon stage anymore. Now you're focusing on those little things, say those imperfections or those things that bother you. And that's where your focus is. That's what I talked about earlier. Where is your focus? Because a positive couple will focus on the positive things. So where are you steering your focus to? Because if you're focusing on those little things that bother you or those negative things, that's where the issue is going to be, because those are the things you're always going to bring up. Those are the things you're always going to throw in your partner's face, is those negative things, is those bothersome things, is those little things that get under your skin. That's what you're going to always bring up. But when you're first together and everything is all fresh and all new and you're all happy just being with that person, you're not focused on those things. You're focused on the positive. You're focused on building a relationship. You're focused on the two of you just being together, having a good time. You're not focused on those little things. But now that you're together and you done built your relationship up, now you start focusing on other things. So maybe your mindset needs to change to get back to those things where your focus was good, where you're focusing on the positive. Because just think for a minute. For example, if your spouse or your mate comes home all the time, you're making dinner, they come home, everything is fine. But then a few nights or maybe one night, they don't come home until real late. They were hanging out or whatever the case may be. Now your focus is on that one night. And you're mad not only that night because they didn't come home, you're mad the next day because you're still thinking about it. And that could linger on and on. So now your focus is on them not coming home earlier or not coming home that night. And that lasts for days and days and days. And that's where your focus is at. Instead of focusing on, well, they came home 4 straight days on time, and one day they may have hung out with their friends or whatever the case may be, and they didn't come home on time, and now you're mad. Now that's where your focus is. So like Cynthia said, you may need to change your mindset. You may need to focus on the positive, because some of the times you have to think about it, some of those little things don't even matter, especially if you talked about them before. So just think that for a minute. Say they don't come home or they come home real late that one night. Did they call you and say, I'm hanging out with a few friends, I'm going to be home late? Then you wouldn't think about it as much. But if they forget to call or they hang out with coworkers or whatever the case may be, they forget to call, now you're upset. So it's not a big deal if they would have called you and said, well, I'm going to hang out after work. I'll be home a little late, or I'm going to hang out with some friends. I'm going to be home late. You wouldn't think about it then because they gave you information up front. They informed you that they're going to hang out late. But if they forget, now that's where your focus is. Okay, they forgot to call. Cut them a break. Give them some grace. They forgot. This don't usually happen. But here's where your focus is, and you're making that little thing that they may have forgot turn into a big thing where you're mad for days. Because now what you're doing, all you're worried about is the complaining part. You're not worried about the compliment part. The compliment part is, baby, I wish you would have called me. So the next time if they call and say, I may be hanging out a little late, you'll understand. It's okay. We done got together 5 nights this week. And one night you forgot or one night you called me, it's okay. But if they forget to call, that's what you're worried about, that they forgot to call and you're focusing on that.
And let's unpack
so maybe like Cynthia said, go ahead, baby, you need to change your mindset.
Right. Let's unpack that a little bit. All right. So they've been coming home, and let's just say coming home was an issue. And so now they've been coming home more often and you're all happy. But then they slip up and they come home late. So let's say they do call. And like you said, that softens it up some. In advance that they're going to be home late. So then you don't leave the food sitting on the table and waiting for them, right? And then let's say they don't call. And so you're focusing on that the whole time and you're getting madder and madder. So by the time they come home, you're hot, fire, and mad. They can see it in your body language. They can see it in your facial expression. And you might even start an argument. But let's just say you shift your mindset and you said, you know what? He's been doing really good or she's been doing really good. She didn't call that one time. So you know what? I'm not going to make a big deal of it. And like James said, the next day you say, babe, I really miss you coming in and eating dinner with me last night. I would love if you had called me. So now you've got you're presenting it and saying it in a way that it's not threatening to them. It doesn't start an argument. It doesn't, they can receive it better, and they'll know that you've really been enjoying them coming home. And then they might say something like, well, it's just that one time, and I forgot to call you. I know I should have called you, and next time I will. And so the argument didn't come because you didn't, started off with your body language. You thinking that they started it. They came home late. They made a mistake. Like James said, give them some grace. But if you approach it differently on how you address them, then you can help avoid an argument too. You can't always put the argument, the bad vibes, the turnaround and the negativity of a relationship on that person who you feel made the mistake. It's you would play a part in it too. And just ignoring it and walking around with an attitude doesn't make it better. But
Right.
addressing
And I'm not
in
saying,
one
baby,
tone can make a difference.
I'm not saying it's the women, so to speak, because when you think of it, if say the woman cooks and now they're mad because I cooked dinner, I had your dinner waiting, it got cold, we didn't eat, that's where the argument could start. And I'm not saying it's just the women, because it could be the man also, like, wait, I was waiting for you. I was waiting for you to come home and cook dinner. You ain't never come home. What was I supposed to eat? I didn't eat anything. And that's where the argument starts. Instead of focusing on, babe, I just wish you would have called. I went out and grabbed me something. Or the woman can say, well, I cooked and, I just ate alone, whatever the case may be. I know, you may have forgot. Right. So next time I'll call. So then it's all good because you forgot. You made it a known issue that, baby, I forgot. Next time I'll change, my way of thinking to make sure I let you know if I hang out, so everything will be all good. And you don't have to cook if you don't want to, or I'll bring something home when I come if I'll be a little late. Whatever the case may be, but just focus on the positive and not the negative and start an argument right away. But a lot of times it builds up when it happens a little often, because I know men and women will both say, well, we have 4 good days and say 1 bad day. But just think, if you had 4 bad days and 1 good day, are you still focusing on all 4 of them days? Because now you think after the first day, the person's going to say, here it is again. You're doing the same thing over and over again. Now it's always going to be an argument, because now you're always focusing on the negative. You're always complaining, because I know you'll probably say, well, it happens too often. It happened day after day after day. One, say, out of a week, 7 days, 1 good day doesn't take away from the 6 bad days. That's what they'll probably say. So what are you focusing on? Are you focusing on more of those bad days? Are you complaining about everything that happened, say, 5 days in a row and not the 1 good day? Or did you sit down and have a conversation and say, this was a good day. I would like to see these kind of days more often, instead of focusing on, you never come home, you're never here, we never talk. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. That's so true, because, I think about another time we were talking to someone, and they were actually, we were getting ready to work with some clients virtually, and she got on and she was upset. He's running late. He ain't here. I guess we won't be, in the same room tonight. I don't know what he's doing. I don't know if he's going to get on or not. Just had an attitude and was upset and disappointed because he wasn't there and he hadn't called. Well, guess what? He came on live where he was, and the man had just experienced watching someone being carjacked while he was driving in his car on his way home. And of course, I won't go into the whole story, but everybody got jammed up because the cops came and he couldn't go anywhere. He couldn't get on his phone because he's in the middle of this act happening, to literally see someone with a gun at somebody's window, make them get out of their car. But anyway, like I said, I wouldn't go into the whole story. And so he got on and he was still shook up. He was like, oh my gosh, he told us what he just witnessed. So you know what? She had to deflate. Here you are upset because he's late and he didn't call. You didn't know what he was going through at the moment. It could have been his life. It could have been him getting carjacked. So sometimes, I know that's an extreme, but and even though it may be, we say it's their habit, them not calling or them coming home late, but even still, when things have changed and people have started turning around, sometimes we forget and we don't even try to understand when they mess up, when they do forget. Right. So if you know that your mate is trying to turn things around, they're trying to do things different, they're trying to help you guys get on the right track, like James said earlier, give them some grace, y'all. Give them some understanding, and change your tone and how you address what they may have done wrong, and start, complimenting them. Babe, you've been doing so good at coming home on time. I've been enjoying us having dinner together. It's been really nice having you here. We've had time to talk to one another because you're home early. I really appreciate that, instead of focusing on they got home late.
That's so good, baby, because one of our principles of communication is don't rush to judgment or don't judge, because you never know what the person is going through. And that's a prime example. She was upset because he didn't get on, but she didn't stop to think, what was he going through? She didn't know he was going through that carjacking. She didn't know all the streets were blocked off. She didn't know he would get caught up and he couldn't call, or he couldn't get on time, or whatever the case may be. She rushed to judgment. And that's the same thing if a person, say, doesn't come home for 3 days, or they have 3 bad days and 1 good day, or 4 bad days and 1 good day. Focus on that 1 good day. Ask them, are they going through anything? Because you never know what a person is going through or what a person has been through. Maybe you need to stop and have a conversation with your mate, with your spouse. Is there everything okay? Is there anything that you're going through? Have that conversation. Find out how they're doing. Find out what's been going on in their life, because you never know. Because you always say, they don't talk to me. Have you asked? Have you talked to that person and asked, is everything okay? Have you asked, is there anything you can do? Have you asked, is everything all right in their life? You may not know until you sit down and have a conversation with them and find out what's going on with them before you rush to judgment and always complaining about them not being there on time, them not coming home when you feel they should. You don't know how they feel. You may feel they need to, if they get off at 3 o'clock, they need to be home at 4 o'clock. They may feel, no, I may work a little late and I may get home at 6 or 7 o'clock. You don't know until you have a conversation. You don't know until you ask, is everything okay? Stop rushing to judgment. Stop rushing to think you always know what's going on when sometimes you don't. And all it takes is a conversation to find out what's going on in their life at this point.
Right. So let's talk about the little things. Even if it's not something negative going on in your relationship, when's the last time you gave your spouse a compliment? Just over the little things. Oh, babe,
right.
Thank you for making the bed. The bed looks great today. Like most times when I make the bed, I don't put the pillows back on our bed. But when I do put the pillows back on the bed, Jane be like, oh, so you put the pillows on the bed today. What's done came over you is like his line, right? So, I did that little thing and he noticed it, or your spouse brings home something from the store that you've been wanting. Thank you, babe. I really appreciate it. Don't just say thank you, and keep moving. Give them a little bit more appreciation. I'm telling you, these positive compliments, positive conversations can help move your relationship in the right direction. It can help you guys to start communicating more. It can help you guys to connect more, and
right.
And it just makes a person feel better. Like sometimes when I say, this trash, I think the trash is starting to smell. And when James go over there and get the bag and take it out, I'd be like, oh, thanks, babe. You got to appreciate the little things. It doesn't matter. You guys, everybody needs to hear something positive sometime coming out of your mouth.
Exactly. And I was going to say, baby, right. Even though, say, words of affirmation may not be their love language, everyone appreciates when you reaffirm something good that they have done.
There you go. That's a good one.
Everybody likes that. Everybody appreciates that. Everybody appreciates it because the little things that you're doing doesn't go unnoticed. Why do you think a lot of times when you talk about complaining, what leads to that? That's because they may do a lot of other little things good, but you don't even give them a compliment on that. You don't even appreciate the little things that they're doing. All you're doing is focusing on the little things that they are not doing. All you're doing is complaining about the things that bother you. You're not even appreciating the little things that they're doing right. Say like taking out the trash, because you probably feel, well, that's their job. They should. But sometimes everyone likes to hear that they appreciate what you're doing. And we got to go back to one of our principles in communication is edify. Words, use words to edify them, to build them up, because it is so easy to tear a person down and it's harder to build a person up. Only because that when you tear a person down, that comes natural. But building a person up, you seem to overlook that. So if you start noticing the little things that they're doing and building a person up, it's so much better, because now The person feels like they're appreciated. They feels like the little things that they're doing, you're actually noticing them instead of taking that part for granted. So when they don't do it, you complain about it.
You know what, honey? I was thinking about something too. I said I got okay, so I'm out of town, right? And I was thinking about I got so excited because you gave me some cash yesterday, right? And I said I was excited and I was smiling, getting all excited, but I didn't say thank you. So thank you, babe, for giving me cash to take.
Right. And see, I could have focused on that. Wow, she didn't even appreciate it. Here she goes out of town to visit her mother. I could have complained that you didn't appreciate the cash I give you. You didn't, usually you may cook a couple meals, so I'll have some each day. You didn't do that. You just left the meat out so you can cook it yourself. See, I could have focused on that part. It could have been easily focusing on the complaining part, but I didn't. I didn't focus on that. Because I know that she wants to go see her mother each month. And I know that her mother definitely appreciates it. And they need to spend time together. Because, when I think of this lifetime, every day isn't promised to us. So we need to live life to the fullest while we're here on this earth, in this earthly body. And if that takes going to see your mother, going to spend time with her, I understand that. Because my mother's not here and I can't do that. So I appreciate that. So I'm not going to complain about, that you didn't say thank you when I gave you cash to travel, or you didn't cook the dinner, so all I had to do was heat it up. I'm not complaining about those things because those things don't matter.
But babe, you was complaining that I was coming to see mom. Be honest. You were complaining.
All right, you ain't going next month. Where your mother? Tell her you ain't coming next month.
Oh my God, she's not in here, but if she was in here, she would have something to say about that, okay? But that's so interesting because my mother always thanks James over and over again for allowing me to come and visit him. I say, Mama, he doesn't allow me to do anything, but we are one, and he knows if that's what's in my heart, that's what I want to do. He's not going to stop, try to stop me.
But baby, I only joke about you going to see him and everything, and it doesn't bother me if you didn't cook, but I could complain about it.
You could,
but that's not my right. But that's not my mindset. Like you said, change your mindset.
Yeah.
Some things you just have to adjust to. Some things you can't let it bother you.
Oh, we got some folks on here. Tashika Greene said, "Happy Saturday, Team Greene." Thank you, Dr. Tashika. I watched your show this morning. It was so good. Dr. Arlene Spann was so good. Her story, her testimony was
I thought
amazing.
It was fun.
It's Spann. But anyway, so I watched Dr. Tashika's show, Moms, We See You, and it was so good. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here. And we got Where Glory is over here giving us some thumbs up too. So thank you guys, everybody, for joining. We really appreciate you. But yeah, we just felt like we want people to just stop for a moment. Just stop for a moment and think about how you communicate. Are you a complainer or are you a complimenter?
And like I say, baby, are you focusing on the little things that bother you, that makes you complain, or are you focusing on the good things that they do so you give them a compliment?
Right.
Which one is it? Because when you think about it from a realistic standpoint, everybody, sometimes you can't do good all the time. One day you may slip up. One day you may forget to call. One day you may come home late. One day something may happen, but you don't know that it happened. But all you're focusing on is that it happened and you're complaining about it instead of focusing on all maybe the good that they've done during the week. Come on. If you had, say, if it's 7 days in a week, you had 4 good days and say 3 not so good days, are you going to focus on those 3 not so good days and complain about them, which leads to more bad days, more complaining days? Or are you going to focus on the good days and give the person some grace, saying, you know what, it's an anomaly, it happened, they apologize, they're going to try to do better, and you'll understand that.
Yes. And A lot of times, honey, people don't even realize that they are. I'm responding to some folks putting comments in the group. I do want to say good morning to my home girl Jackie. I'm at home too, Jackie. I'm in Fayetteville. Oh, please tell your mom hi so she knows that. Oh, cool. But anyway, so babe, a lot of times we don't even realize we're complaining, because when you were complaining about me coming home yesterday, I had to check myself and think, is he really serious or is he just talking? Because y'all know my husband, he's a talker. And sometimes, I don't know if he's saying something just to be saying it or if he really, really, really means it. But I could have argued my point. I could have made a big deal out of it, but I chose not to. I chose to not even go there with him, okay? Because you know what? My daughter and James and I, we had this conversation the other day. And James was talking about how I used to be a fusser and I used to yell. And my daughter was like, oh my gosh, yes. And he was telling our daughter how I used to scream her name. And my daughter said like, oh yes, I used to hate it, right? Y'all, I had to change me. James couldn't change me. My daughter couldn't change me. I had to change me. Sometimes we have to search ourselves. That's called EQ, emotional intelligence. We have to manage our own emotions. When we learn how to manage our own emotions and what comes out of our own mouth, that makes a bigger difference. Like James is a body language expert, and we both teach on the 7 principles of communication for successful relationships, right? And one thing that we've learned is that, and that we teach, is that 10% is what we say. 10 to 15% is what we say, the content. The other 85 to 90% is your body language and your tone. So we have to watch our tone. We have to watch our, the way we standing there. If you're all like this and all balled up and the look on your face is all mad and you just got an attitude, that doesn't make anybody want to have a conversation with you. It doesn't make anybody want to hold you in their arms.
And I'll just say, baby, even though you could be saying something positive, if your body language isn't saying it, more people pay attention to how you're acting than what you're actually saying.
Right. So, honey, think about it. And you guys on here, think about it. And I want y'all to let us know, how many of y'all have been at a restaurant and you saw a couple in there and they looked like they were totally unhappy. They weren't talking to each other. They weren't looking at each other. They both may have even been on their phone, and that you might even have seen them in there arguing. Like, we watch couples' body language because, we're relationship experts. So we watch couples' body language when they're in a restaurant. How many of you have seen a couple in a restaurant and they just really look like they don't like each other? Hey, James, honey, James Price is on. We haven't seen you or talked to you in a very long time. Hope you're doing well, sweetie. Yes, good to have you today. But right, so how many of y'all been in a restaurant? Let us know. And you saw a couple that did not look happy just from their body language. Just put a 1 in the group for yes. Put a 1 in the group for yes. If you saw a couple in a restaurant and they just didn't look like they were happy being there together. We notice it all the time. We see a couple sitting over there. They're not even talking. James like, look at them. They're not even talking to one another. So
and you would think that, okay, they're maybe on a date, they're at least out having dinner together, but that doesn't mean everything is good.
Right, because they might just be out having dinner.
We're looking at their body language and how they're reacting to each other instead of looking at, well, they could be on a date. They could be just out to eat, together. You never know.
Well, they might have just went out to eat together because nobody cooked and they had to eat.
Right.
So
but just like I say, you can't rush to judgment because they could be out discussing, say, breaking up, discussing, going their separate ways. You never know. And that's why I say to everyone on here, you can't rush to judgment when it comes to figuring out, what to say to the person. You have to hear them out because when you never know what they're going through or what they may have been through. But you're already focused on what you want to say instead of hearing what they have to say or what they may have been through. That's why I say, even though, your mate is love language may not be words of affirmation, everybody appreciates when you compliment them or give them a great word of affirmation for some of the little things they do. I mean, if they take out the trash on a regular basis, thank them. Because if they don't take it out, now here you are complaining that the trash is full, the trash is stinking. Why don't you take it out? You're complaining. But if they do it all the time automatically and you don't give them a comment like, babe, I appreciate you taking out the trash. It was getting a little full. Because here you are focusing on the negative, complaining all the time. Everybody needs a good word, a great word of affirmation, even though it's not their love languages, because that means you're noticing them. And everybody in a relationship wants to be noticed by your mate, wants to be noticed by your spouse. They want you to notice maybe the good things they're doing, maybe the positive things that they're doing, instead of all you're doing is complaining about the things they don't do, or about the things you want them to do, or about the things you wish they would do. But the stuff that they're doing, you're not even complimenting them on that.
Right. You're not recognizing, you're not acknowledging it. I had to laugh to myself because when I went out to lunch with my friends the other day, I thought I was looking kind of cute. So I came downstairs to give you a kiss and tell you bye. And so that you could see how cute I was looking. And you were in a meeting and you barely looked my way. But you know what? I kissed you on the head because you were right in the middle talking, and I kept it moving and I left. But yeah, everybody wants to be noticed by their boo thing, right? So I wanted you to see me looking cute because, being home, not going anywhere these days. I know I be looking toe up at home sometimes. But anyway, you guys, so let's just unpack this and we're going to get ready to close this out. You guys, you've got to stop complaining about everything. You've got to start, someone that I truly admire, Cheryl Wood, right? Cheryl Woods. And I remember the first time I heard her story, it just really impressed me. She talked about, she used to bring home the worst part of her, the worst her, because she would be so stressed at work, so stressed driving home in the traffic. By the time she got home, she was fussing and just carrying on, and her husband and her kids got the worst of her. And she didn't want that. She realized she didn't want that. She wanted her family to have the best of her. She was coming home whining and complaining and stressed out and just fussing because she was stressed out. And so a lot of times the people in our home get the worst of us. If that's you, stop it. Stop it right now. Do a mindset shift. I want my family to have the best of me. I used to be a yeller and a screamer in the house, especially yelling up the stairs. And I had to learn to either go up those stairs, get closer to the stairs and talk in a softer tone, or call whoever I was trying to call on the phone. I had to make a decision to change me, to shift how I was handling the situation, on how I was doing it. I didn't want to be a yeller and a fusser. So thank God I saw me. And again, that's emotional intelligence. When you can do those types of things, you start managing your own emotions, then you can develop a better EQ, emotional intelligence. So think about how you're responding to your children. Think about how you're responding to your mate. Think about how you're responding to the people in your household, because that's your first ministry. Y'all know that's your first ministry, right? You want them to have the best of you. You don't want the people out there in the streets to have the best of you and people think you're so wonderful and great, and your kids in the background like, no, she ain't, no, because they see the worst of you. So start changing how your tone, start changing in your head before it comes out your mouth, what you're going to say. Start changing in your head how you're going to respond to something. The Bible says, out of the heart, the mouth speaks. Out of the heart, the mouth speaks. What's in your heart? If frustration and anger and turmoil is in your heart, it's going to come out of your mouth.
Right. So and babe, when you think of that, you can think of couples that are arguing in the car on the way to church, and then when they get to church, you don't think anything's wrong. Hey, how you doing? Hallelujah.
We've done it.
But everyone knows that. Well, not everyone knows. I'm saying your family and your mate knows that it wasn't like that in the car. So what you need to do is, like you said, give that person the best of you. Compliment that person. Act like you're in church when you're at home, if that's the case, if that's the way it should be, so they can have the best of you.
And
you don't want to treat other people better than you treat your own family.
Oh, say that again. Oh my gosh. Y'all know that used to be a real thing in the church. people to go to church and they get to church all their time, all their service. They working. They helping people. They all nice and friendly and kind. And then they get home and they this mean old lady, mean old man.
Well, think about it for a minute, baby. That if, say, you work in the church and you're in ministry or whatever, and you don't want to be late, and at home, your family is running a little late. Now you're upset. Now you're complaining the whole way because you feel you're late to get to church. You have duties to perform, and it's all your family's fault because they weren't on time. So you're complaining to them all the way there. And then when you get there, everything is all good because now you're there. Now you can perform your duties. What's more important here? Your family's more important. Mm-hmm. The church is always going to be there. Don't have somebody to start off the duties that maybe you need to assign until you get there. Mm-hmm. So give your family some grace, or, ask them, on a kindly the day before, I have to do this at church tomorrow. So can we can we get up a little earlier? So can we make sure we're on time, or whatever the case may be? But don't take out your frustrations on your family or on your spouse. And because that's what a lot of people seems to do. They seem to, if something happening in their life that makes them upset, they'll take it out or blame it on their spouse or on their mate. Stop doing that.
Yeah. And these things we're talking about doesn't just apply to your family. In your household, your spouse, your children. It applies to your family members. It applies to your friends. It applies on the job. It applies in the church. Some people are just complainers. And I asked you guys to type in the group. I want to know, are you a complainer? Are you a complimenter?
Right.
Are you a positive person or a negative person? Are you bold enough to let us know that you're a complainer, but that you're working on you? You're going to change.
Like I always say, you have to look at yourself. You can't blame all your misfortunes on everyone else.
Right.
A lot of times, if you feel you don't meet up to certain expectations or aspirations, you always want to blame somebody else. You always want to point the finger at somebody else why you can't do the things that you feel you need to do. So all that does is cause the argument, or all you're doing is complaining to the people that you feel is causing you not to meet those expectations.
And y'all, I didn't even know I wasn't a complainer, but I was a yeller and a fusser. And I didn't even realize it really until I started dating James, and he was at my house one day, and he was like, "Why are you yelling?" And then he used to say that often, like, "Why are you yelling? You're still yelling. Like, why are you talking like that?" And so I was a fusser and a yeller, like yelling.
It was a complainer. You were yelling and fussing because you were complaining about something that they weren't doing.
I know that I was fussing at them, but I was not a complaining person because I've always been a person, an exhorter. I love to compliment people and lift people up. But my kids were getting the worst of me because I was yelling at them and fussing at them for the things that they did wrong instead of focusing on what they did right. And I'll never forget, my son was ADHD, according to the doctors. And so I learned that with ADHD kids, they respond better to positive reinforcement than negative reinforcement. It's kind of like the same thing you do when you're training your dog. You have to give them treats in order to teach them, get them to do a certain habit over and over again. And not comparing my child to a dog at all, but what I'm saying is that I learned that he responded better to positive reinforcement. So if Drew, you did a great job. Oh, Drew, you finished your homework on time. Oh, good boy, that's the way to go. Oh, let me mommy give you a treat. I know I'm saying treat, and I just talked about treat for a dog, but I was like, let me give you a treat. Let's go get a snack, and he responded better to the positive reinforcement than when I was yelling at him and fussing at him. So what we're saying is you got to change your mindset. You get educated. When you get knowledge, you're supposed to use that knowledge. I got the knowledge and I use that knowledge. And when James pointed out to me about the yelling, and that wasn't even fussing, I said yell and scream at my kids up the stairs to come do something. And he was like, why do you have to yell? And so I learned to either call them on the phone or go up there, or I could realize I could talk loud without it being a yelling, ugly yell type of scream. So search yourself. Right. So we're going to get ready to get off here, you guys. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Thank you for your comments. It's so good to see you guys here today. And I do want to let you guys know, James and I, we are doing a book collaboration. Y'all, this is something that we've had on the book since 2016. We were told to do a book collaboration way back in 2016. We were given the blueprint for doing it, and we let life get in the way, and we never did it. Well, this time is for real. We've already got several couples who already raised their hands and say, yes, we want to be a part of your book collaboration. So if you know that you have a marital story, something that you and your spouse went through, or you went through in the marriage, or your spouse went through in the marriage, we want to hear your story. Send us an email and say, James and Cynthia, I think I have a story that you guys need to hear. And we only have a few more slots.
Well, maybe it's not just a story we need to hear. It's a story that the masses need to hear.
Right.
Because you never know what other couples could be going through. And for me, it's about helping couples. So your story can definitely help another couple. Because you never know that a couple could be dealing with the same thing that you already dealt with, and hearing your story could help them. We always feel it's like iron sharpens iron, lifting another couple up, helping another couple through trials and tribulations, what they may be going through. And you may have already been through, especially if you've been married a lot longer than them. They may be going through it now, but hearing your story can always help them. That's why we feel it's always important to tell your story. The Bible says we overcome by our testimonies, and coming through something that you've been through as, say, a married couple is a testimony. You can say, we've been through it. Now we came out on the other side and we're better for it. And another couple may need to actually hear that to help them. So that's why this is important. It's about telling your story and getting your story out there.
Thank you, babe. I was getting to that point. So what I was saying is send us an email. Let us know that you have a story to tell, and then we're going to actually help you tell that story, because somebody in this world needs to hear it, because this book is all about saving marriages. And the Bible says we are overcome by our testimony. So your testimony is going to help somebody else overcome what they are going through. So my husband just said it really, really well, so I won't re-emphasize that. Send us an email to info@marriagebuilttolast.com. That's the number 2, marriagebuilttolast.com. And let us know that you've got a story that you believe can help another couple. And we'll give you the information so that we can see if you'll be a good fit for the book. We only have a few slots left, so email us as soon as you can. We're planning to close this out by the end of the month. We should have all of our couples. And we're excited about this book. Is going to change the world. Something I was thinking about too, babe, and I'll share it with you guys. This book is going to change how people look at Black marriages. People don't think that we, as people of color, have great marriages. And people don't think there's good marriages out there, period. But they definitely don't look at Black people as having great marriage, because, statistically, we have least amount of marriages than other nationalities. But then when we do, and then our divorce rate is higher. But also in the midst of that, there's a lot of us who really do have great marriages. Yes, we've been through some things, and sometimes the things you went through and got on the other side is what made you have a great marriage. There's nothing wrong with that. So we're going to share our story, and we're going to save some lives, and we're going to change the way the world sees marriage through this book, through our stories. So send us an email, info@marriagebuilttolast, and we're going to see you guys next Saturday. We got a whole new theme for the month of May. It's marriage, business, and wealth. We're going to be talking about how to not balance marriage, but how to strategize when you're married and you have a business, whether it's just one of y'all, both of y'all, or y'all in business together. And then we're going to talk about how you still can build wealth through, even if you just have a job. But if you got a business, you got a job, and you're married, we're going to give you some strategies to help you strategize and create wealth and continue to build your marriage and your business and your income, right? And we're going to have some special guests come on next month. So we'll see you guys next Saturday, same time. And remember, if you build it, It
It
will
will
last.
last.
God bless you guys and
All
have
right.
a wonderful, wonderful rest of the day. Here we go. Oops, sorry. That's not what I meant to do.